It's June, and that means Summer Game Fest time. We can talk about every showcase, so here are our top highlights. As longtime Guild Wars 1 and 2 players, we are so happy about the first announcement, which we only waited 14 years for. ArenaNet has finally unveiled Guild Wars 3. For this one, we head deep into Tyria's past, more than 1,000 years before the events of the original game. As members of the Veil Wardens, we'll explore the region of Or, which you might know best as those ruined maps where we confronted the Elder Dragon Saitan in Guild Wars 2. What's new now is your companion, a spirit creature called a Seeker, which also doubles as your personal mount. ArenaNet is putting more focus on momentum-based traversal, letting players wall run, slide, leap, and glide across the world. That same momentum also carries into combat, which now aims to lean more towards action combat instead of the good old tap targeting. Multiplayer remains at the heart of the experience, with shared open-world exploration, group dungeons, and guild content. Guild Wars 3 is currently in development for PC via Steam and PlayStation 5, with the first beta planned for fall 2027. Guess who signed up for that already? Monster Hunter Wilds has been out for a while now, so it's officially time for the real monsters to arrive. Capcom has unveiled Ascendance, the massive expansion that sets expectations cloud high. Literally. The centerpiece is the Skybound Eyrie, a new region made up of floating islands and plenty of opportunities to discover just how afraid of heights your hunter actually is. Exploration becomes far more vertical, with mounts now able to glide between islands and ride air currents across the map. Of course, none of that would matter without something terrifying waiting at the destination. Ascendance also brings back some heavy hitters, including the wind-controlling, metal-skinned dragon Kushala Daora, which has a bit too much home advantage in this terrain for our liking. New airborne threats join the roster as well, many designed around the expansion's vertical environments. And of course, there are Elder Dragons, promising some epic but also catastrophic encounters against building tall killing machines. Great! To help even the odds, hunters gain access to the Boost Bracer, a new tool that enhances mobility, attacks, and weapon combos across all 14 weapon types. We are a bit skeptical if a little bracer turns the tides here, but hey, we will see. Ascendance, like the base game, supports up to 4-player co-op with full crossplay and launches in 2027 for PS5, Xbox, and PC. Clutch is a new open-world racing game set on the French Riviera. But you're not exactly going on holiday, at least not all the time. The game tells a cinematic narrative of two siblings leading a dangerous double life. By day, you're competing in a racing championship as a professional driver. By night, you're competing in illegal street races, all complete with police chases, and yourself hopefully making an escape. What makes Clutch stand out from the other racer titles like Forza is how much attention it pays to the cars themselves. Beyond the usual performance upgrades and body kits, you can even personalize car interiors. Also, the car models look pretty nice. The open world is also built around dynamic encounters and conflicts with rival crews. Exact multiplayer details and gameplay have not been shared yet, but we suspect it to be a PvPvE open-world sandbox. It is currently targeting a spring 2027 release on consoles and PC with full crossplay. Imagine a hand gesture turning into your favorite co-op mechanic. No, we don't mean that one. Manners, gentlemen. But Kemuri does exactly that. The game takes place in the metropolis of Kemuri, a city caught somewhere between the living world and the afterlife. Here, hidden yokai and supernatural fractures are part of everyday life. If you know where to look, of course. As a yokai hunter, you use the fox window gesture to reveal creatures and anomalies invisible to everyone else. Defeating these yokai lets you form contracts with them, turning their abilities into wearable powers that change both combat and traversal. One moment you're gliding across rooftops with feathered wings, the next you're swinging through the city using a giant frog tongue. Do other people at least see those powers? Or are you just awkwardly being yoinked around? The city itself is built around vertical exploration with fast movement, parkour, and 3-player co-op. Hunters can either specialize in melee combat, range, or supernatural abilities, which makes team composition more than just a cosmetic choice. Story details are still scarce, but with the unusual possession system, the supernatural system, and the focus on co-op hunting, Kemuri already landed on our wishlist. The game is currently targeting a 2027 release. HAEX is a new co-op survival shooter that begins after a scientific expedition crashes in a remote Arctic wilderness. And if you've learned one thing from this channel, it's that a mix of paranormal mist and a sentient Rubik's Cube isn't healthy. Which is also true for the alien life forms that made these woods their home base. But surviving these aliens is only one part of the challenge. At least we have guns. We must also manage cold, hunger, and supplies, while exploring a procedurally generated world filled with hostile creatures and increasingly dangerous anomalies. Don't ask me how or why, but your progression system gradually unlocks alien powers like dashes and double jumps for our scientists, which opens new ways to explore. One of the more unusual mechanics lets us influence the world itself by planting alien seeds, creating new routes, resources, and opportunities for dying. Just kidding. Although, tampering with unknown alien technology may have consequences. HAEX can be played solo or in online and even LAN co-op with up to 4 players, with character progression carrying across different worlds and sessions. The game is currently targeting an early access launch in 2027 on PC. Inspired by the developers' experience of spending the 2020 lockdown stuck on a boat near the San Juan Islands, Last Harbor tries to recreate that same feeling of isolation as you navigate the abandoned remains of a cluster of islands off the US coast, now teeming with the undead. We just hope the last part wasn't actually one of their real-life experiences. So, naturally, the game gives you a boat and politely suggests you never get too attached to dry land. You'll spend time upgrading it, storing supplies, fishing for food, and getting ready for a quick shore excursion regardless. Because floating around can only get you so far, and the islands are way too packed with abandoned towns and their valuable resources just to ignore them. Unfortunately, they are also packed with zombies, and a lot of them. So every scavenging run becomes a balancing act between gathering supplies and making enough noise to attract an entire horde. And if that wasn't bad enough, other players add another layer of tension, since the person helping you clear a town today might decide your boat looks more useful once it's fully loaded with loot the next day. There are safe harbors, where guards keep the peace and the people safe. Those serve as social hubs to team up or trade. Hopefully the guards check for infected. Last Harbor sounds like an interesting push and pull between safety and risk. The sea offers protection, but sooner or later you'll need fuel, medicine, or equipment, and that means stepping back onto land. Yes, it has PvP, but you can and probably should avoid it most of the time, as gunshots attract the undead. Last Harbor is planned for release on PC via Steam in 2027. If you love the adventure platforming and co-op puzzles of the Trine series, Trine 6 brings you more of that, plus 2 new playable characters. For some reason, we were instantly thinking of the Calypso twins from Borderlands 3. We just hope these two don't try to be streamers. The focus remains on the series' signature mix of platforming, physics-based puzzles, and light combat, but also brings a new time-slow mechanic too. This gives every player some extra control during tricky jumps or difficult boss battles. As always, the puzzles are designed around experimentation and teamwork. Co-op remains one of the main attractions, although you may also play solo. Trine 6 supports up to 4 players in couch co-op or online with crossplay. It is set to launch on September 17, 2026 on PC, PS5 and Xbox, followed by a Switch release a week later. It doesn't matter if you love the Cuphead franchise for its art style or for the extra hard co-op challenges. You will soon get not one, but 2 new Cuphead games. The devs haven't teased any real footage for Cuphead 2, but the mighty Cuphead adventure will be an 8-bit co-op platformer for 1 or 2 players. The arcade racing adventure Star Wars Galactic Racer got a release date now, October 6, 2026, coming to PC and consoles. After playing through the single-player campaign, you can play various online racing modes with up to 12 players, featuring various vehicles and drivers from the series. Meadgard is an adorable co-op tavern management game for up to 4 players. During the day, you gather your own resources, and by night, you try to turn a rundown Viking inn into the most famous drinking hall, where even the gods want to spend their nights and coin. This looks perfect for any Overcooked fans. It is currently planned to launch on PC this winter. After all that back and forth with Splitgate, 1047 Games just announced a new fast-paced movement shooter with wall runs, grapples, jumps, and even mechs you can pilot. EMPULSE is built around 12-player PvP matches with crossplay and community-driven development, coming soon to PC and consoles. We were debating to even mention Saw, but we know there are a lot of horror fans out there. Genesis is a new 3 vs 1 multiplayer game coming to Steam Early Access later on. 3 accused try to solve the puzzles and get out alive, and 1 judge is doing the Saw things. Well, let the games begin, I guess. Fighting games do not tend to be family-friendly or easy to learn for beginners. Daybreak Slam seems determined to solve both. Plus, it's also looking super cute for a fighting game. It has couch and online modes for some fun matches. There is a demo on Steam with a launch date still to be announced. We've been watching the survival RPG Stormforge for a while, because it looks a bit like cel-shaded Valheim with 8-player co-op. It has exploration, gathering, crafting and building, plus a deeper class system. And of course, magical storms to control. They have now announced their first public playtest coming this summer with an early access release planned afterwards. After more than 2 years in early access, Palworld is finally heading for its full 1.0 release. The biggest addition is the long-awaited World Tree, which opens up as a new endgame region packed with powerful pals and new challenges. The update also expands the roster with new creatures, adds more weapons, armor and building options. And it continues the story beyond what players have seen so far. It launches on July 10th for PC and consoles. The upcoming Into the Abyss update for Grounded 2 opens up massive new areas, including the koi favorite pond, while overhauling swimming with new gear, underwater exploration, and even aquatic base building. Ziplines and a new rideable water bug called the Toe Biter are also being added. Into the Abyss launches on August 11th across all platforms and also marks Grounded 2's PlayStation 5 Early Access debut. AION 2 has also closed in on its global release date with a window set in September this year. As the game is already live in Korea and Taiwan, and despite their promises, widely considered pay-to-win, or at least heavily pay-to-progress, we are not sure how hyped we are for that release. Even with NCSoft's statement that they plan less aggressive monetization for global. And of course, with so many new game announcements, we also have some freebies for you. Over on the Epic Game Store, you can grab Songs of Conquest for free until June 11th. This is a turn-based strategy game inspired by 90s classics like Heroes of Might and Magic. It blends exploration, resource management, and faction-based battles in a charming pixel art style. And if you would rather jump into something more action-packed, we also have Marathon, a sci-fi extraction shooter from Bungie, where you play as a runner, fighting and looting your way through tense PvPvE matches. It's currently free to play on Steam until June 11th. But that's all from the Summer Games Fest and for this week. We hope you could fill up your wish lists and that you had fun watching. And we hope to see you again in the next one.